Hello, everybody. Happy Friday the 13th, or not. I guess a Friday the 13th has finally caught up with everybody. My name is James. I am one half of the Planet FPL podcast, and you are watching or possibly even listening to my regular Friday feature, where essentially this is a YouTube feature where I welcome live chat questioners from anybody in the YouTube community, and I will do my best to answer all of them. Before I get into the questions, the first thing I want to cover is essentially how I feel right now, because I think most of us will feel similar. I feel pleased is the overriding feeling that the Premier League has been suspended. My immediate feeling on the rearranged, or at least suspension until April the 3rd, is it just buys people time. I do not think we will be restarting football on April the 3rd. I cannot see how that's possible based on government statements yesterday that the situation is highly likely to get worse. So football season might be over, but I'm sure we'll cover that during the chat today in terms of potentials of what may happen. I'm pleased that it's off for protection of players and fans. I'm pleased selfishly for me because I would have gone to Spurs on Sunday and that probably would have been a mistake, but I would have gone because Tottenham Hotspur is an addiction to me, like alcohol, drugs are to other people. I've gone to every home game for 30 years, and the behind closed doors idea, which we all expected Thursday afternoon, or certainly me and Suj did, I'd come to peace with myself that, all right, I can't go. But if they opened the doors, there was nothing that was going to stop me. And I don't know if that was right. And there was a lot of people who were saying, the right decision is just not to go. And I get that, and I accept that. And that probably would have been the right thing to do. Unfortunately, it's obviously unfortunate that what's happened with, obviously, particularly with the illness to Mikel Arteta, has now really forced everybody's hands. Okay, I'm sure we'll cover this off more as we go along. The other thing I want to cover off is there's been a statement in the last half an hour or so from the official Fantasy Premier League Twitter account. And for anybody who's not seen that, I'll just read that to you briefly and tell you what I make of it. So they've started with, what does the Premier League postponement mean for FPL? All game week 30 and game week 131 fixtures are postponed, and the intention is for the Premier League to return for game week 32 on April 4th, subject to medical advice. What happens to the postponed fixtures? It is the Premier League's intention to reschedule the postponed fixtures when it is safe to do so. Points scored in these fixtures will apply to the game week in which the fixtures are played. The Premier League will provide further updates when appropriate. These are exceptional circumstances, and we appreciate the understanding of FPL managers while the situation evolves. I think that's absolutely fine. They really do. There's been a lot of, should I do this? Should I do that? I don't know what the right answer is. I really don't. Me and Suj joked when we recorded the final plan, which we waited to after Boris Johnson's press conference and then thought it would be up to date and was going to post it this morning. And then at 9 o'clock or whenever it was, the Arteta news broke that it was out of date. So we just posted it. I just posted it anyway. I don't know what they're meant to do. One of the things we joked about was teams might have 5 games in game week 38. I guess that's possible right now. I think if it was to be a situation where game weeks, 32 to 36 were postponed, they will probably reorder it to a game week 39, a game week 40 for the basis of the game. But I think it's all speculation at the moment in terms of how it works. I think the wording from the game is responsible in terms of, again, highlighting that subject to clearance, because I personally don't think that the league will restart on April the 4th. And they've left their options open. They needed to make some formal communication to keep people happy. That's what they've done. I think what it does mean is one small thing. It does suggest, and I need to double check on this, and I'll put a statement out myself on Twitter once I've looked into the details and clarified. But it looks like if you've got 2 free transfers, I wouldn't make one now because game week 31 is off as well. But if this time next week that it looks like game week 32 is going to happen, there is a case scenario where you might want to use one rather than waste a free transfer. So you've made one in prep for 32, and then you've still got 2 in game week 2 ready for game week 32. So essentially, we made free transfers for that game week. However, as I've said, I really don't see that going ahead. I think anybody who really believes right now that game week 32 will happen as scheduled is probably kidding themselves. The statement yesterday from Parliament was very much that the worst of this is going to be in 10 to 14 weeks. And all we're going to need if we restart is one Mikel Arteta instance again, and we're off again. And that leads me to think right now, my opinion is that the Premier League will not start, I would have thought, till May at the very earliest. And I think more likely is July or August. And that then leads us into the position of, does the season even get finished? I'm sure through some of your questions, which I obviously want to cover off before I spill too much, that we'll get through that today. So in terms of Planet FPL as well, contingency planning, what are Planet FPL going to do while there's no football to cover? You probably can't see that, but I'm recording the audio of this on my phone. And if it comes out clean enough, once I finish this stream, I'll cut it up, clean it up a bit, and put it out as an audio. And that's what I'll regularly be doing on Friday to replace the final plans. We'll be looking to do a regular quiz while the off season's off. And there's other things we'll look to do. I'm already, our next clash of the correspondence was going to be Wolves versus Bournemouth in anticipation for game week 31 with Bradley Parker, Neil Grover, Parker_Bradley at AFCBNG. I'm already in discussions with them to decide if we want to go ahead with it or not. It will obviously not be a Wolves and Bournemouth podcast, but I think I'd be really keen to get the lads on to get different opinions as full fans. Bradley goes every week to Wolves. Neil goes away from home a huge amount with Bournemouth. They're obviously, one's challenging for Europe, one's fighting the drop emotionally, how they feel. So I want to do that podcast. I still think there's something in it, and we'll keep going. Vote will go out on Sunday for people's poll. I'm going to pick out some subjects that finished second in probably 4 of the last 6 votes, for example. You can choose the best. We'll keep going on. Nothing going to stop us recording content, because the worst case scenario, even if me or Suj got one of these diseases, we would do it like this over the internet, cut it up, put it out as an audio. Right, that's enough babbling for me. This is meant to be a question session, so let's go. Benny Blanco, if the season was to be cancelled without being completed, what do you think would be the fairest way of dealing with that? If it was cancelled without completing, I think it's just void. I think the priority has to be to complete the season rather than start the next season. One of the things I've suggested on Twitter is, say we can't restart till August, is possibly next year we have no cup competitions. We finish the season August to September, and then we run the next season October to May. I think that's the fairest way. We can't worry about fixing the next one when we haven't organised this one. The fairness of this league, in my opinion, it has to be completed, whether that's next month, the summer, the autumn. We can't worry about what's going on next. Who knows? We might not play football till 2021. I don't know. In which case, we just complete the season in January or February or something, don't we? We've got to complete this. That's my opinion of that. As a Spurs fan, I'm like, yeah, scrap it, cancel it. But I think we need to get a conclusion to where we're at. It's not just about Liverpool. It's not just about Leeds or West Brom. It's the importance of the structure of our whole football pyramid, from Liverpool down to non-league football, everything. There is a knock-on effect for so many teams. And for every positive of bringing Leeds up, there's the Bournemouth who would technically, I think, right now, if they got relegated, would go down by 1 goal. Another reason I want to get Neil on Clash of the Correspondents. So the season has to get completed. And the resolution of what should be happening now is the worst case scenario of no football can be played between now and June. What do we do with next season? I think that would mean for me, the start of next season would be complete the league campaign, complete the European competitions, if possible, if travel permits, complete the FA Cup. Then we'll worry about what's next. And it might be, like I said, that we have to go one leg knockout in Europe if they want to keep the Champions League going. No FA Cup, no Carabao Cup, no LDV, Vange Trophy, Johnston's Paint, Mickey Mouse under-23 cup competitions, just the league format. The priority has to be completing this league. There is no fair way of completing it as it stands. Aston Villa are in the bottom three. They have a game in hand. If they won it, would get them out of the bottom three. There is no way you can relegate them. Benny adds on, I would say you could only crown champions and relegate teams that are mathematically sure of finishing as champions or going down, if that makes sense. Which at the moment, Benny, is no one. There's no one who's mathematically done anything in this league yet, or any of the leagues, to my knowledge. We know Liverpool are going to win the Premier League. 98% Celtic are going to win the Scottish Premier League. 95% Leeds and West Brom are coming up. We can't just make that decision. It's not how football works. John on the not mod. Afternoon, James. Thank you, mate. You too. Obvious question, thoughts on what FPL said. I don't fully understand them. FPL are covering their bases, which I think is the right thing to cover for eventual possibilities, rather than making a statement of, we will do this, we will do that, because I don't think they can determine anything how it stands right now when none of us really, they can say best intentions April 3rd or April 4th, whenever it is. None of us really know what's about to happen. So they're keeping their options open. My general recommendation on your FPL team is don't worry about it. Do what I might do. I might just post my team tonight for the crack. Kevin De Bruyne captain. I was going to leave James Maddison first sub, even if he had picked up an injury. I was intending to roll. I don't know. Make a transfer. It makes you feel better about your life. FPL doesn't matter right now. And to be honest, I feel like I'm one of the biggest football heads anywhere. Football doesn't matter right now, really. It's nice for us to talk about it, but the outcome of what happens next is not the priority at the moment. JJ Twennyson, hey up friends, hey seen a lot of people unsure whether to use the free transfer before the deadline, etc. What's the current best advice on that? Well, it's definitely not now anyway. If you've got the 2 free transfers, you'll go into game week 31, which is also going to be off, still with 2 free transfers. So I think from a clarity perspective, we'll all know where we stand by then. They'll probably put further statements out in terms of clarifying. They've done the right thing for now, in my opinion. Ted, Chelsea correspondent, rotation FPL says agreed. He DM'd me just before we went on. I said, get on the stream and I'll answer your question for you, mate. Binodge FC, MC says, afternoon. Hello, mate. Joe Finley about it. Hi, James. Just voted for the pod and the FCAs. You guys deserve it. Fresh. So I wasn't aware that the awards for the Football Content Awards, which has been rebranded from the Football Blogging Awards, has gone live. I was aware our Crystal Palace correspondent McTavius kind of started up a bit of something on Twitter, which I pushed quite hard a few weeks ago, was because they'd had no podcast nomination for their Fantasy Football Awards. And now there is one. And that's a thank you to a lot of you guys who've got into their comments. And if you look through the FCA's comments from some of their tweets 2 or 3 weeks ago, nearly all the responses are, where's the Fantasy Football podcast? And I love that. The awards are scheduled to take place at Tottenham in the stadium in May. The voting is now open. We were going to go for best in social category, which I thought with us doing the live shows, etc., seemed like the right thing to do. We obviously are going to go and generally try and win the podcast award category now. I think, are we the best FPL podcast? That's not for me to judge. Do we deserve recognition for the stuff that we've done this season? Yeah, maybe. 210 podcasts recorded and posted since the beginning of June is a lot of podcasts. That's 210 podcasts released in, 9.5 months. Do we deserve some recognition for it? Yes. Yeah, I think we do. And I'd love it if you went and voted for us. I'm not going to give it really too much of a hard push. I actually think there's enough momentum from a lot of you guys to give us the support. And if it still means that a bigger brand like the brilliant Brandon and Josh, who won last year, always cheating, if they still win it, then they still win it. But the only way I'm going to win an award at Tottenham, probably between now and my death, is to win this award. So go and vote for us. That would be really nice. Graf Vasily Filkov was wondering, what is the highest rank for dead team this season? Oh, there's an easy way of finding that out. That's if anybody who's in the Who Got the Assist Zombie League, if someone wants to post that in the comments and just let us know during the conversation, that would be great. But I know Luke Jurdy, who's started his own podcast, the Triple Captain Pod. His is amazing. He's about 10K or something. So it's quite high. Yeah, don't feel too bad about your life. Paul Coleman, is it even possible to even be up to date? No, Paul, it's probably not. If there's any breaking news while I'm streaming, someone put it in the comments. No fake stuff, please, because I'm not looking at the internet or anything while I'm recording with you. I'm sure someone will fucking do that now. Michael Svedin, will they prolong the season? I don't know, Michael. I think that's the right thing to do. But as and when and how and why, that's to worry about in 2 weeks once we get into April and we know a little bit better where we stand. Jay Tonis says, yeah, it says, James, on the statement that the deadlines will remain. Yeah. Jay Tonis also says, and any minus hits taken will be applied. So, yeah, I mean, you're not going to use your wild card now or anything like that. The one thing, obviously, is if anybody was planning to free hit in game week 31, they ain't doing it now. And ain't you lucky that it's come before this? Because one thing I can certainly say is if this season does reach a completion, the double game weeks when they come are going to be a blast. Expect triples. There's going to be loads of shit going on. JJ also says doesn't think he'll be back game week 32. I don't think he believes that the Premier League and football in general is going to restart in game week 32. Even if it did, I just think something would happen. It'd be off again. It's not sensible. All they've done with that decision is say, look, we're off now for a couple of weeks. They've bought themselves some time. I think they know that they're postponing for longer. The only way it will come back on is obviously if this virus recedes in the way it's spreading for whatever reason. If it gets containment like is it in Hong Kong, where I think they've nearly eradicated it now. But then this country and the way it's governed sat on their arse. Oh, I know what we'll do. We'll let it spread. I mean, what was it you said yesterday? We're in a delay phase, and we know that some of your loved ones are going to die. Well, that didn't put the fear of God into anybody, did it? That's the point where you go, hang on, I'm not really sure that I really want to go to football at the moment. Edwin Grant says, hello, James. Hope you're doing well. Was about to listen to Final Plan and so I saw this. I would still recommend listening to the Final Plan because you know what? We had a really good laugh on it, actually. Not at the circumstance, obviously. But I don't think you want to listen to us at the moment. It doesn't mean we don't care. We really care about what's going on. I don't think any of you want to listen to us at the moment and hear us, kind of describe what's happening on or tell you to wash your hands for a half hour or an hour. We know that. I think mine and Suj's responsibility, however long this goes on, is to try and give you a little bit of light entertainment within your lives. If you're coming just for the FPL, then do you know what? You might want to switch off for a couple of months or so because there's probably not going to be too much of it. Obviously, we're going to cover the bases, any breaking news, any news stories we get. I just think our life, well, a lot of you are going to be sitting indoors doing nothing over the next couple of months, is to keep going. That's all I feel about it. And I don't want that to be boring. I don't think we're in a situation where any of us feel like you can't have a laugh during the day or you have to. The best thing we can do at the moment is just be sensible with the way we're looking after ourselves and try and get on with our days as best as possible. We think I'm going to do. I got a 15-month-old son who wants to hug me every minute. Do you know what? He's getting a hug every minute, but I'm going to look after him in the meantime, and I'm not going to mope around him worrying about what the future holds for me or him or my parents or etc. Life goes on. Be sensible about it. That's the advice. But yeah, listen back to the Final Plan. I think it was good. Colin Con, get your votes in, lads, for the FCA Best Card podcast. Thank you very much, mate. Matthew Hall, if we have 2 free transfers now, we should use one before deadline tomorrow. No, definitely not. Matthew kind of rewind there as covered. Jeff Holt says, hi, James. I have 2 questions relating to terminology. My God, mate, I barely speak English properly. First one, a few years ago during the riots, the word criminality surfaced to describe the event. I do not recall it before then. And when the riots died down, it disappeared without sight. The riots, because we might as well do stories during some of this. The riots, I guess being a Tottenham fan as well influenced it quite a bit, was probably the lowest I've ever felt about anything that was out of my control. And one of the reasons for that was I worked for a betting company at the time. And I was basically caretaking the area manager position, and I had 80 members of staff, which were essentially my responsibility. And the end of days, once we got everyone safe and home, they felt like the longest days trying to take care of people, making sure people got out of everywhere safely, etc. Looking after, it was 16 different sites I had. It might be 17 actually at the time, ranging across Islington, Hackney, those sort of areas. That was distressing. So I used to get to the end of the day and go, when it was going on for those few days, I'd get home about midnight and think, my God, I got to get up and do this again at 7 o'clock. And that was a shitty time. And this is a shitty time now, obviously. Sean Murphy says, good on you, James. Always listen to your point of view. Stay well. Yeah, and to you too, pal. Colin Con says, would you do an FPL strategy podcast? Analysis on all the different ways to play FPL and their pros and cons. Do you know what? When the game returns, we'll do the strategy. All right. There's no doubt about that. But now's not the time to even hypothesize. One of the things I said on the final plan, leave Ben Crellin alone. What can he tell you? He doesn't know what's going to happen. He can give you his hypothesis. Leave the guy alone. Like, interact with him by all means, but to stop bugging him. He doesn't know. He's just going to give you his best educated ideas. This is unprecedented. We don't know what's going to happen. Talking of unprecedented, Joe Findley Badder says, what would happen with player contracts, loans, etc.? This is unprecedented. It's the same thing. I mean, if we restart in June and the majority of contracts, I'll just go with the example, I know, say, Jan Vertonghen at Spurs or Ryan Fraser at Bournemouth might be a really interesting one, where their contracts will expire on June the 30th. Now, I think we'll probably get in a movement stage. Let's say the season restarts in June. I think you would probably get intervention from a FIFA or a UEFA who would say, okay, fine, transfer window moves to September or whatever. And these guys can either give Ryan Fraser, I'm sure in that case, say Ryan Fraser, I'm sure Bournemouth would give him a new contract or pay him till September. What you often get, those with Football Manager will be familiar with this, the idea of rolling contracts. So possibly can't go and play for someone else, but would basically have a week-to-week contract until the season concluded on same salary, etc. So I think rolling contracts is something that would probably be quite likely there. The other thing is, what happens if the season restarts in August or September? What do you do then? I think because the situation is quite unprecedented, I actually see no reason why there's long enough to go that transfers could be made, really. Back in the day, the transfer window used to shut about this time of season, actually, about mid-March. You didn't used to get many transfers happened at this point, but I'm sure that was all the way up to around about the early 2000s, where the window would be open all season to about mid-March, and then they'd cut it off so you couldn't make any transfers till right in the end. So it's not unprecedented for teams to be making transfers with 8-9 games to go. So there's every chance that that would potentially stay. It's all very hypothetical, isn't it? Jeff Hout's now talking about self-isolation. Have you ever used this phrase in connection with anything before? Self-isolation. With a few women, maybe, mate. Jeff Holt's predicting that self-isolation will disappear once this has run its course. Let's hope and keep our fingers crossed that this does run its course and it's not a disease that hangs around forever, because the reality is it could. Excuse me. Chris Ewers. Purely from FPL point of view, I prefer this situation of all games. If you're wondering, those watching what I'm doing, my earphones, I thought I could hear the baby, which would have been big trouble. Purely from FPL point of view, I prefer this situation of all games cancelled rather than another potluck situation where some games get cancelled after the game deadline. Well, like Man City, Arsenal would say. It's just unfortunate, man, the whole Man City Arsenal thing. Said our Chelsea correspondent, rotation FPL. I'd be fuming if I was still in the FPL Cup. Oh, quarter of remaining managers kicked out on a coin toss or two. Is that what they've said? Oh, sorry, 3 or 4 kicked out. Surely they just. Well, I don't know. What do they do with that? Could you really get kicked out on the coin toss? No one's in that shit anyway, are they? John, not the mod. Looking forward to Doomsday Preppers style podcasting. As you and Suj build up food stocks and bunkers, yeah, we'll still be podding, mate. Jeff Holt also said, how did the term brace come to be used in FPL? Previously, I've only ever heard it used referring to a catch of 2 salmon or a hunt of 2 game animals. As far as I can remember, Jeff, a brace was commonly used when players scored 2 goals. I've not known it to be, I can't remember it being different to that. So where it started from, I don't know. Colin Con says, if they keep postponing games and giving a free transfer, we are effectively getting a wild card the longer it goes on. Yeah, there's loads of things the game could do. I was having an offline conversation with Tom Campbell at Utley TC, who's one of the top people you can interact with on Twitter. He was asking my opinion, and I said it was open to so many things, whether people might get another free hit, perhaps for those who have got one free hit, they might end up with 2 free hits. They might just. There was something happened. It was before I played the game solidly. There was something happened where there was an administration error. Someone can fill me in really early in the season or something. I think everybody ended up with an unlimited wild card or something happened like that. Whatnot graphics. Good afternoon, James. If Euros are cancelled, it would make it a lot easier to finish the season. The Euros getting cancelled is an absolute certainty. I'd be astonished with the travel stuff if that still went ahead in the summer. The Euros will be in 2021, and I don't know, travel might get really put under pressure, and it might not happen at all. Might be after Qatar 2022 to get us back from a summer schedule to a winter, because that's one possibility, isn't it? I think in the run-up to Qatar 2022 that we end up playing the league campaigns from, say, I don't know, January to October is one thing, and the off season being sort of November, December, for example, and then that would coincide with Qatar 2022. Play the Euros after that, and then start building back towards a winter schedule. There's so many things that's up in the air. Billy Hadaway, will we get free transfers every week? Isn't there a maximum of 2? Well, yeah, I've never seen anyone sitting there with 3 in their bank unless they put some sort of statement out. Be no chance, so the FTs will burn if we don't use them. Is there even any point in pondering over what to do with FTs? No idea what will happen. No, not really. The only people who should give even a second thought to FPL right now is those with 2 free transfers. And I'm telling you, don't even think about it till next week. Get the FPL questions out of here. It's a waste of time. Brian Yule, if there was no chance for return to 11-a-side games, sorry, mate, I've lost your question there, mate. If there's no chance for return to 11-a-side games, would you prefer the season being finished via small-sided games or esports? Fuck no, Brian. Just cancel the season, mate. If that's what it's to be. At some point, football will restart. Stewie Bryan, hey, Joe, I was just in a position I probably could have started playing 5-a-side football again. You just think, it's like no bigger place you can pick up a sickness, really, at the moment. Stewie Bryan, hey, James, what to do in isolation at home surrounded by family members without football and with toilet rolls? Constructively thinking you could analyse your FPL season so far. What, me analyse my FPL seasons while sitting on a toilet seat? It's probably about the best place I could analyse it, I think. Sean Murphy says, based on contracts, etc., it would need agreement of teams, agents to amend that question. Transfers could happen before the season restarted in July, August. As an example, Villa could already be gone from Villa. Yes, he could, but then I don't think Jack Grealish would leave Villa in the shit like that, for example. So unless Villa were already down, which they're not going to be if it doesn't restart till July, I should say, they've still got a chance. And obviously all this time of gap, who knows? If we restart in August, Tottenham might look like a good football team with footballers fit and Mourinho's innovative tactics and all that shit. Sagnick says, stay safe, James. Thank you, Sagnick. You and every our Spurs player might all be back for next game week. No, he was playing Spurs players in game week 31 anyway, were they? If they were, you're stupid. By the way, some of you might remember if you listened to Tottenham on Tuesday, and FPL Irons from the Wolfpack had sent a message about what West Ham were going to do to Tottenham in game week 31. Well, I've gone back to him today and said, he ain't going to be doing that, mate. And by the way, we're now still going to fucking relegate you in game week 37. Ben Wardrop, don't worry. Here in Oz, we're keeping all public gatherings, i.e. football grounds, open till Monday, just so our PM can go to the footy on the weekend. Oh, okay. It's not just the UK full of idiots then. Oh, Jeff Holt's got some Spurs trivia. Let's have it. Who are the oldest and youngest first-team players of all time? Oh, God. John Bostock must be the youngest. A young kid we got from Palace, came on in a UEFA Cup game against Dynamo Zagreb in 2007. First thing he did is pull the ball out of the sky and then fire it into the front man. Never saw him again. It's a great son. I mean, he's out playing in Belgium now, John Bostock. Oldest? I don't know. Not Brad Friedel, is it, Jeff? I'm not going to stew on that too long, but let us know. John Lord, the numbers in the UK are so much smaller than most European countries. People are comparing us to Italy, where there is a clear link to Wuhan. There is an over-exaggeration, but it's right to contain here. Possibly, John, but none of us, I'm certainly not a professional. And, you know, if someone says to me, what would you do? I'm a little bit like what Klopp said. I ain't a doctor. I'm not the expert. I don't really know what to do, but I know the right thing right now is that no one's playing football. That's an absolute certainty. And then, yeah, maybe things will calm down. Notorious Nerd, can the Premier League cancel the FA and Carabao Cup games for next season so we can ensure the league doesn't get cancelled and next season can still end on time for the Euros 2021? Yeah, I've already suggested that. I think that's a possibility. We just go no cup competitions. Colin Con, the General has a coupon in his pod to get 10 craft beers free. For free, only postage £5. I think I may send you my Patreon subscription for next year and also keep you stocked in isolation beers. That's really cool. That's nice of the General to have that little offer on his top man, Mark. Mitish Nair, if you win the FSA award for Best Fantasy Podcast, will you consider leaving it in the Spurs trophy cabinet there itself, mate? I probably would do a dodgy picture of putting it on a cabinet or something. I'd have to for the crack, wouldn't I? I can take the piss out of myself. It's fine. Billy Hadaway says, oldest is Brad Friedel. Yeah, go on. Benny Blanco, just voted for you an FCA podcast. Relentless output, quantity and quality all season. Thanks to you both and Manchild. We're going to keep coming at you, mate. Briella Washington, I cook with... Wow. That I'm not reading out. Notorious Nerd. Kane could be back when the season resumes. The Spurs batting top 4 race. Come on, Harry. So Spurs. I saw there was some talk. So I just seen a comment from John Lord replying to some sort of video. I don't get loads of birds, mate, because I've got a ring on my finger. Once upon a time, maybe. But I saw a comment that there was a few Premier League clubs who were potentially going to put some pressure on the Premier League to cancel the season. And there was a suggestion that there was a London club who were definitely like, call that shit off. And everybody was in the comments going, it's Levy and Mourinho. It was Levy, Mourinho, and me, mate. Let's get it called off. Rajdeep, thanks for asking how I am. I'm really good, mate. Look, generally, if the season restarted in August and Spurs have Kane, Son, Sissoko, who's really close to fitness as well, etc., fit, then it's a different football team, isn't it? And there's not that long to go. And fifth depending on what happens with Man City, could yet be enough, and in which case, yes, it's a possibility. It's definitely not at the moment. Rajdeep asked for thoughts on official FPL's decision. As I said right at the start, Rajdeep, I think for the moment they've said the right thing, in my opinion, and we should just treat it as that and not be in their ear going yada yada yada. Colin Con, have you been freaked out yet with the little fella's toys when they are running out of batteries and start going off in the middle of the night? No, I think that's an internal problem you've got there. Jeff Holt says, Spurs 2, what player and what year was the lowest amount of goals scored by a Spurs top scorer? Oh, bloody hell, mate. I mean, that's brutal, isn't it? Oh, gosh. Could be 93, 94. Possibly Teddy missed the majority of that season. 97, 98, we might have had loads of players. We've got like 6 or 7 maybe. Some dark seasons, man. Some really dark seasons. I think Andrew Hodgins has got Tourette's. Dave Pimpernel, if it gets cancelled, should we have a big cup comp to decide who plays in what league? Imagine winner takes all. Spurs v Leeds is mouthwatering. Well, Spurs v Leeds is mouthwatering. Yeah, there's a league game next season if it eventually happens. No, I don't think you should be having cup competitions to arrange league games. There's some suggestion of, oh, let's scrap it now and let's have playoff fixtures and that. I'm really not keen on that. My opinion would be just finish the season whenever it gets finished. If it means we lose whatever hasn't started yet, the league, next year's league, next year's cups, next year's Europe, fine. We should have a resolution for something that is already 75% complete, in my opinion. Brian Yule, can you see any clubs sacking a manager during this enforced break? As a replacement would have extra time to assess matters. Well, that's out of the box, isn't it? Wow, I'm not sure it's appropriate right now to be considering that sort of thing. But for example, there's certainly been some talk at Aston Villa that Dean Smith's last game was going to be tomorrow. And Villa obviously then would have had a prolonged break anyway with no game week 1 fixture and then internationals before game week 32. So there was a suggestion that following the game this weekend that John Terry was probably going to take over to the end of the season. So that would be the one, possibly, but I'm not sure that's right. I'm not sure that's right. You could be on a really bad run. This break might be exactly what you need. Notorious Nerd, any know-how about the status of the Champions Europa League when they can be resumed? I haven't got a clue, mate. I'll tell you what, it'd be harder to finish that than it will be to finish the Premier League. I mean, if you take a case like Serie A in Italy, like, I mean, when next year? I don't know. That's why I'd be like, sack off Europe, like overseas and that next year. Is anyone even going to be able to go out there and play? And I personally don't want any of this behind closed doors stuff. I'd rather it just got cancelled, personally. Jeff Holt has confirmed that John Bostock and Brad Friedel were correct. Thank you, mate. Maneuver, am I right in saying you know every Spurs league result since 92 off the top of your head? No, I wouldn't say off the top of my head. I would say that I can work it out. Some you can ask me and I will tell you in a second. Some I will have to work it out. And there are a handful that I probably will get wrong. But generally speaking, and it's not since 1992, it's probably since the summer of 1990 when I've been going as well, I would say. Benny Blanker, the deadline for the non-game week 30 is tomorrow. If you have 2 transfers, should you use one? Benny, just don't do shit, mate. Don't do nothing. Leave it be, pal. No FPL transfers. No trying to mug the system. If you had 2 free transfers this week and stuff, like, I don't know, man. Yeah, you want to be clever and use one, and then you got 2 next week, and then you use another one. If you want to be clever, if that's how it's going to work out, you know, whatever. I'll, as someone who's got 1 free transfer now, I'll look at it next week. Brian Yule, would you do a non-FPL podcast talking to Manchild? As I learned in Manchester, he's a pretty interesting guy. Well, excuse me. Interesting is definitely one way of describing Manchild. That he definitely is. He's definitely interesting. He's a superstar, isn't he? I tell you what, he's a genius. He really is. There's no point talking about football. But yeah, I think maybe not myself so much, but there's other stuff like Suj and Manchal could probably do a quite good music podcast, maybe. Hey, I'll put it out to the boys, put some pressure on them, maybe. I know they like probably got similar tastes actually. Yeah, maybe. I think the one people keep mentioning, it's half jest, is me and Suj doing the parenting one, which I think Suj thinks is kind of a cool idea. But it would just be more of a car crash of our failures as fathers, I think. Luke Sanders, it's Edgar Davids' birthday today. What are your memories of him, and who is your favourite Spurs midfielder of all time? Memories of Davids, the first thing that comes to mind is when Mike and Joel shouted him play on at Highbury, and he did, and he squared it for Robbie Keane, and he scored. I was at Wigan in the away end for his only goal. I think that must have been November 2005. He brought a winning mentality that Tottenham hadn't had probably previously in the whole time, the previous 15 years that I'd supported him. He brought that winning edge. And we had a very good 12 months out of him. Good player. Best midfielder? Ooh. How long have you got for me to debate the merits of Gascoigne and Modric? I think I'd have to go Gascoigne. More in the attacking end in terms of he'd stayed fit all season. If he was fit now, he'd score 20 goals every season. Yeah, Gaza for me. Jeff Holt, Spurs scorer answer Teddy 95-96, 8 goals in all comps. Yeah, it'd be injury affected. I knew there was something around that time that would have been very low. John Lord, are you going to put any of the pictures from the live show up on the website? Yes. Can everybody at the end of this stream or whenever at Arjun M for Mother Sharp and say, where are the pictures from the live show? They exist. I haven't even seen them, but I have asked him about 10 times now. So maybe if you guys do it, he'll start listening. He's a genius, but he's lastminute.com. So if he has a deadline for something at 5 o'clock, he will do it at 4:55. That's just how he is. Rohan Megan, hi James. Do you have any favourite football documentaries? Have you watched any of the ESPN docs like the 2 Escobars or the Amazon All or Nothing series? Amazon All or Nothing on Spurs is just taking another turn, isn't it? No, I've been meaning to get round to the Sunderland and Man City ones for quite a while on Amazon. I mean, particularly the Sunderland one would particularly interest me. But I wouldn't have any recommendations off the top of my head. I know my father would say, and he keeps telling me, and I haven't yet, to catch up with the BT one on Jimmy Greaves, which I must do. I've got the time to do these things now. Elite FPL Steve-O, we're starting a possible protest. Hashtag boycott FPL. Okay, Steve-O, tell me why, mate. Why do you want to boycott? Are there not more important things going on? Notorious Nerd, what streams will you be doing in the next few weeks with no FPL? So we'll have a discussion, but I think right now there's probably no point us doing a main feature podcast at the moment for an hour and a half, understandably. We might do something that's Q&A, possibly. My fear with that is your dickheads will just ask me FPL questions and there's really no point. Monday we'll do people's poll, going to pick out some of the second place ones from the previous 6 weeks or so, put them in a vote. We'll do that Monday. Tuesday we'll do Tottenham, and we'll do it very much attack it as a fan perspective in terms of how we've filled. Me and Suj were looking at one stage like we were going to stream together and watch the games together on Sunday if it was behind closed doors. Wednesday we will do Sky because we'll just look at ways in terms of how it might end and where people sit and how it should film. From there, we'll probably close Sky for a little bit until it restarts. Thursday, I do want to do Clash of the Clans with Bradley Neal. If you want to know why, go back to the start. But I actually think that would be a great pod to do to get their kind of fan opinion on things. And it's probably looking now like Friday will be like this, and I'll put it out as an audio. But I think following that week, then after that, certainly a quiz will go into the schedule, and there'll be other different things that we might look at. There's a number of different things, but Monday to Friday there will still be some form of audio podcast every day. That is not going to stop. Bill Hadaway, best Spurs starting 11 of all time. Difficult for me to comment of all time, Billy, because I only go back to the 90s, and there's not many from 1990 to now that would would get in the greatest ever Spurs team, if ever. So I wouldn't be best placed to answer that. But 7 or 8 of them would be made up from the 61 double team, I would say. Possibly then sort of Cyril Knowles left back position from the 70s. You'd probably want Glenn Hoddle in there from the 80s. But the majority of it would be from the 60s team. Rajjeep, many clubs have called off their trainers' precaution. Do you think they would be ready to go at once when the league continues, or would there be a delay? Possibly a delay. John Lord, Manchild is a top man. Had a good conversation with the live show too. Nah, he's a star, mate. He's brilliant. Maneuver, right. Testing you a few. Okay. Oh, I see what you've done there. Reading v Spurs, 6-7. Oh, was that the year that Reading came up? If so, 3-1 to Reading. I think Robbie Keane put us in front with a penalty. I remember Nicky Shorey scoring. I don't know if I've got the season right there, but I think I have. Reading Spurs, 3-1 Reading. Nick Griffith, best American to grace the Premier League. Oh, that's a good question. I think Brad's a shout, actually, for his longevity and that. He was a good goalkeeper, Brad. He had one very good season at Spurs, and then he started to tail off a little bit. It was absolutely fantastic for Aston Villa. Clint Dempsey was very good for Fulham. Not so great for Spurs, but he still scored about 12 league goals for us. But bang average. Spurs couldn't wait to get rid of him. Brian McBride obviously had good goal scoring spells at Everton and Fulham. Afonso Alves, is it Afonso Alves? Davis, isn't it? Sorry, I don't mind blank there. Bayern Munich, he's American, isn't he? The left back. If he comes over, it'll be him. What no graphics? Did you ever used to watch Saint and Greasy? I did watch Saint and Greasy as a kid. Yeah, I don't think I understood then who Jimmy Greaves really was, but obviously do now. But yeah, I did. It was the Saturday morning program, wasn't it? Can you name, Jeff Holtz, can you name the Spurs players that won Football Writers Football of the Year? Oh, God. Bale, Ginola, Klinsmann. I'm sure Klinsmann won the Football Writers in 95, maybe. I might be smoking something there. I'm not sure if Hoddle ever did win it. And then further back, I'm not sure. Manoeuvres Batty says, and Spurs v Reading 0708 with big eyes open is a much easier one. Spurs won 6-4. A 25-minute spell was the most insane bit of football I've ever seen in my life. Reading went 2-1 up with about 35 minutes to go, and I think within 25 minutes it was 6-4 to Spurs. It was madness. Ramos went chasing the game, and Spurs basically played what I could only describe to you now as a 2-3-3-2 formation. Yeah, it was a car crash. I'll save you the trouble, Maneuver. The reverse fixture at Reading was 1-0 to Spurs, and Robbie Keane scored again. Are you a Reading fan by chance, Maneuver? Notorious Nerd, bit unlucky that Alisson got injured just before the second leg, and the game was scheduled this week before the postponements. Yeah, I guess it is unlucky for Liverpool. On a different night, they would have gone through comfortably the other night. Chat FPL, what is your favourite Chelsea v Spurs match? Probably have to say the 08 League Cup final at Wembley. That would be my favourite. Maneuver, really random one. Blackburn away 99-0. You've picked a grim fixture there, Maneuver. And I have to be careful now, because if I'm recording the audio for this, I can't just be going, oh, that's a bad one. Blackburn away 99-0. Oh, Jesus. Can't remember what we did at home to them that season. I have to get that bit first. Nah, I'm calling bullshit, because Blackburn went down in 99. So it never happened. That's why it's that random. And that's why I can't remember it. I remember Man United drew at Blackburn game week 37 midweek. This is where I show my sickness. And Alex Ferguson claimed he didn't know that Blackburn were then managed by Brian Kidd, who went down. So there was no Blackburn-Tottenham fixture in 99-2000. Sean Murphy, Bobby Robson and Jimmy Greaves were awesome docs. Yeah, I loved Bobby Robson, man. Who didn't, you know? Anything, even though I was really young, anything that I've talked around Italia 90 is brilliant to watch. John Lord, Simeone versus Mourinho. Discuss. Great manager. Shit manager. I wouldn't particularly want Simeone at Spurs either, by the way. I don't really want to watch that shit. And depends what side of the fence you sit on, don't you, in terms of was it tactical masterclass Wednesday night or did they just get random lucky? I think it was probably somewhere in the middle in terms of the fact it's still very impressive that they went to Anfield, whatever the circumstances, and scored 3 times. But they very easily could have lost the game in 90 minutes. Excuse me. Sean Murphy also recommends the Sunderland Amazon doc. John Lord, I knew that you were asking as a defensive coach, my friend. Sean Murphy says, resorted to watching old Match of the Day on YouTube too. Yeah, mate, old football, way forward, mate. Although, fucking Sky, they just keep putting the same games. I mean, how many times can they put Premier League years on? You know, if people are going to pay for the subscription money, come up with something a little bit original during this period. I want to see like Sheffield United v Norwich from 93, 94, like a game I can't remember. Chap FPLs, we have a lot of time before FPL returns. Can we just finish with all the people's poll questions that just turned up second and third in the polls? Yeah, possibly. I'm sure we're going to get around to a lot of those topics, but don't forget some of those topics we mentioned are obviously going to be very dated now. But the opportunity will come around again, so certainly vote for them. Joe Finley Bader, I'll follow on from Maneuver. Watford versus Spurs 6-7 on my 7th birthday. Oh. Immediately I can remember the reverse fixture at Spurs. It was when Paul Robinson scored for Spurs against Ben Foster. So it must have been earlier in that season. Was it 0-0 by chance? I think that's right. I think it might have been 0-0. John Lord, Landon Donovan played for Everton, probably the best American, but he was awful there. Yeah, brief line, wasn't it? Brian, Roy Wegerle is the best American. Yeah, don't mind that as a shout. He was particularly good at Coventry. Bill Hadaway, next goal wins. Great documentary about American Samoa, lowest ranked national team of all time. I've seen that. That is cracking. That is as well, actually. It is good. Jeff Holt, trivia, random question. Which car from TV or film would you choose for your own car? All mechanisms would work as per the show. I don't drive, so I'm not that much of a car buff, to be honest. I don't really know. Matthew has said, Davis is Canadian. Suj is in the chat. Hi, Jimbo. I have news. Big news. Nick Griffith says, go on, Suj. Joe Vinny Badder's got his eyes out. Oh, come on in, Suj. What is it, mate? Notorious Bird. If the season were to end now, who would you vote for player of the season, young player of the season, manager of the season? I probably would go Jordan Henderson, unfortunately, if that's a little bit dour, but I think that's probably where my vote would go. Manager of the season would be Klopp, but with a very honourable shout out for Chris Wilder. Young player. That's quite tough. That's quite tough. I have to say, one thing about young player, you can still win it if you're like 24 or something. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So I don't know if someone like Jack Grealish would maybe fall into that category, but I feel like that should get changed so it's someone under 21. I don't know. I need to think about that. I can't think of anyone off the top of my head that's massively stood out who's young. How old's Wan-Bissaka? He's not been brilliant, but decent season maybe. A few of the Chelsea lads maybe. Would you consider Mason Mount? I don't really think so. I don't feel like there has been a real outstanding young player this season. But yeah, I'd like to hear some suggestions of that, comments in the chat, actually, young player of the season. Billy Hadaway, bloody hell, what a memory. I can't even remember the score from last week's game. Joe Finley Bader, well, for Tottenham, it was 0-0. Nice one. Sujan Shah, let's wait for James to catch up with the feed so we can make the announcement. Oh my God, I better go quick then. Notorious Nerd, have you changed your travel holiday plans due to this coronavirus outbreak? There is a lot of talking in the house at the moment. We are meant to be going from Mallorca for 2 weeks in early June, during the first 2 weeks of the group stage of Euros. Actually, I am potentially putting my foot down and saying that I don't think we should go. We need to essentially pay the remaining balance of the holiday inside the next week or lose the villa for 2 weeks. So there's some decisions to make. I'm not sure that it's appropriate to be going anywhere at the moment. So yes, possibly, but that's an internal family issue. But I'll let you know once we decide. Sujan Shah says the bougie listeners who use iPhones now can then download I think he means the Planet FPL app. There you go. So finally, well done, Suj. Nice job there, mate. You can now download the Planet FPL app on your iPhones. JJ Tonison says KDB. That really better not be for Young Player of the Year, mate. He's about 27. Then he says Mount. It's one of the ones I'd suggested. Yeah. What? No graphics. The 4-year plan QPR doc is worth a watch. Not if you're a QPR supporter, though. That's the sort of shit I'd like. Then I like car crash stuff. I like to know that there's someone worse off than me. Yeah, this is a good time to catch up on all those things. Certainly, as I said, certainly the Man City and Sunderland ones I want to get into. Although I'm a little. There's a few times I've gone to start the City one and I just feel like watching Guardiola knowing I've got Mourinho is going to depress the life out of me. Maneuver. James, with the greatest respect, you're a freak. Didn't mean it to be a trick question. Meant 98, 99, but I got it wrong even looking at it. And you still got it. Ha, bang on. Incredible. 98, 99, we won 3-0 at Ewood Park. And at the time, Blackburn were about... oh no, that's 97, 98. I tell a lie. So 98, 99 was obviously when you went down. You must have been struggling shit then. Oh, you might have me here. 98, 99. What did we do that year? It was when Graham come in. League Cup. Is it a 1-1? Maybe at Blackburn. I got a 1-1 in my head. I can see us in purple. Let me know. I might have that one wrong. The 3-0 I was describing was the year before, 97, 98. And it was a really unlikely win. Spurs were big odds that day. John Lord says he's got the app on download. Brian, you young player, maybe can't. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of stretching it a bit. Joe Finley Badders just nailed it. It's TAA. Yeah, go with that. Louis Patel, absolutely brilliant news. Serge, yeah. Rajdeep says Android version. Android's been out for a while, Rajdeep. Balatsi, young player of the season. Saka, hands down. What, on a good 6 weeks? No, you're okay, mate. I mean, Arsenal's young player of the year, yeah. As Serge repeats, Android is already live. Search. Tom Campbell, LOTC. Hey, James, can you and Serge do a podcast where you guys look back at your game week 1 squads and talk through if there's anything you got outright right, wrong based on what we knew at the time? Yeah, I think we can, but I think probably the overriding message I could probably say now, Tom, to make it a little bit boring is I probably wouldn't have done a lot different. Not a lot at all. First thing that springs to mind is I probably wouldn't have taken what I knew was a 2-week gamble on Lucas Moura. And that said, he assisted in game week 1 and scored in game week 2. So I'm not too sure how many changes I'd make, Tom, to be honest. Decisions Charles says you can get the app in the Play Store. FPL, lucky FPL. Young player of the year, TAA, player of the year, KDB for him. Yeah, that's fine. Angus McPhail says young player of the year, Trent. Yeah, I feel that's where I'm at now. JJ, Trent, Madison, Grealish, Tammy, Jesus, Mount. I think on Asia, not Abraham over the course of the whole season. I feel the same with Mount. It's Trent, isn't it? Trent's the right answer there. He also says Rashford is within the top 7 with the bookies. Yeah, could have been Rashford if he'd stayed fit. Mind you, he might be back by the time it starts, I suppose. Maneuver, Blackburn away in 98, 99 was 1-1. Ridiculous. Yeah, me, go. I love this game. Joe Finley Banner, give a young player to Shmailish Sarr, actually, just for what he done to Liverpool. It's quite a few would agree with that, maybe, I think. Maneuver, thought you were about to get it wrong too. Yeah, I was struggling a little bit. Those ones can be more difficult when you have to break up, obviously having different managers in the same season. When I'm remembering Spurs games, mate, I have this weird, I can visualize from kits and stuff like that. And that's how. So actually something like Blackburn away is normally a bit easier because I know that we've definitely played in an away kit. Okay, so what colour away kit? And then who played in that kit? Who did we sign that summer? Except who was scoring the goals that season? I just narrow it down from there. And if I can remember one of the games, like for example, I don't know I think we beat you 2-1 at home quite early in that season, and then I'd just work off from there. Mitesh, it's Doomsday. You only get to rewatch one game from the past. Which would it be and why? Is it a rewatch or a be there? It's got to be Ajax, isn't it? I think if that was my night every night for the rest of my life, I could do that over and over. I'd got more drunk, I think, but then the memories are so clear. So, yeah, I think for an over and over of a game, yeah, there's been better performance games. There's certainly some under Pochettino in 16-17. We're looking at this going, my God, this is a good team. It was just such a pleasure. But to go through that Ajax again and go through that ending, yeah. Jeff Holt, best headline ever about Luton Town. Kerry Dixon and Paul Dickoff were our attacking pair that scored very few. Fanzine headline, 2 dicks up front, but still no penetration. Yeah. I mean, that would have taken a while, maybe. Billy Hadaway, first game I saw at White Hart Lane, can you remember the score versus Blackburn in 95? Now, you've got to clarify there, Billy, because is that 94-95 or 95-96? I'm going to say it was 94-95, and we beat a top of the league Blackburn Rovers 3-1. Goals were scored by Klinsmann, Anderton deflected, and Nick Barmby. I think Tim Sherwood scored for Blackburn, if I remember correctly. And I'm guessing, I'm just thinking about Spurs v Blackburn 95-96. That was later in the season. Alan Shearer got a hat-trick. So it must be the 3-1 that you went to, Billy. Jeff Holt, Spurs v Liverpool 2022-2023. There won't be a game, mate, because we'll be in the Championship. Brian Yule, surely Jesse Lingard, Young Player of the Year. Kid has so much potential. Great shout there, Brian. Yeah, couldn't agree with that anymore. Tom and Nick will have my backs from who got the assist. Maneuver, I'm a Reading fan, not Blackburn. Just went for them for a random game. Incredible memory, though. Fair play. Thanks, pal. John Lord, can you name the goal scorers when Tottenham beat Oldham 2004 League Cup 6-0 Spurs? Oh, Jesus. I remember watching that in an Irish bar in Wood Green. I was pretty drunk. Yeah, I can remember a few of them. Anthony Gardner scored. Goran Bunjevcevic scored. Freddie Canute scored. Jermaine Defoe scored. I might struggle beyond that. One of them might have been a known goal, maybe. Maneuver, what PL game has more goals than the Spurs 6-4 Reading? Joe's already put the answer underneath, but I would have known it. It was the Portsmouth versus Reading 7-4. And we're up to date on your questions. I think it covers everyone off there. Have any dickhead putting in silly stuff in the chat, like in the spam. So thanks very much. I said Defoe. Canute got 2. Yeah. Thanks very much for joining the chat. I don't know if I'm going to be able to put this out as an audio or not. I also don't know if it will be any good as an audio or not. But it's up to date. You've had my opinion in terms of where we were at. Thank you very much for joining the chat. Catch me on Twitter if you've got any questions. DMs are open. Let's talk. Let's chat. please, everybody, be safe. Particularly take care of your vulnerable people, particularly the elderly, and that. Be nice to each other. Now's not the time for Twitter wars and shit and taking the piss out of people. You know, there's difference between banter and being downright abusive. If you want to come and banter me about Spurs and stuff, by all means do so, anytime, any place. But be nice to each other. Like, fuck's sake, there's too much shit going on in the world at the moment. So other than that, thank you very much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And me and Suj will be back doing what we do on Monday. Take care. Ciao for now. I suppose if it's an audio, I can say Cue Music Man Child, can't I?